Hi everyone, this is Carla with Ogden Clinic Marketing. Welcome to day 2 of our 12 Days of Wellness series. We are here with Dr. Jason Bruse at our Davis Family Physicians location, and today we are going to talk all about feet. It might seem gross, but Dr. Bruse has great information for us that we're very excited to learn more about, but I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Sure. My name is Jason Bruse. I've been doing this for almost 20 years. My practice is anything feet from old to young. I see lots of kids and all the way up to elderly people. I'm a board certified foot and ankle surgeon, and we see athletes and really anything that anyone comes to us with a foot problem, that's me.
When we think of winter, typically we think of the doctor in terms of getting a cold, getting sick, you might have ear problems, but we really tend to neglect our feet sometimes, which is also really important. So my first question is, what are the most common issues that people can have during the winter on their feet?
So it's a good question. We do see a repeat of several problems during the winter. And they're all related to the weather getting drier. People are indoors more. When you're indoors, it tends to be drier, and you're amongst, in a heated house that has got blowing air. So people tend to get dry skin for sure in the winter, and that is very common. And so the first thing that I talk to people about is make sure that you're moisturizing and taking care of your feet. That's often a part of the body that people forget about, and you do need to make sure that you're moisturizing your feet and looking at it. It's very common for people to get dry skin, and that can lead to problems. We can get cracked skin, which can lead to, infections and sores on your feet and things. And so we want to watch for that. Additionally, during the wintertime, if it's cold, you tend to be in your shoes and your socks much longer. And so when you're in shoes and socks longer, you are at greater risk of having fungus problems. And so, people get athlete's foot, which is just a fungus, and that can happen in both kids and teens and athletes as well as in adults. And you have to remember what fungus likes is three things. It likes warm and dark and moist, and that's right inside of a shoe. And so if you're in your shoes and socks longer in the winter, and if it gets wet because it's slushy outside and your feet get wet, that's a perfect environment for having a fungal infection of your skin, which can get into your nails as well. And so those are two things that I see commonly as people getting dry skin in the winter and then also getting fungal issues. We clearly see some cold injuries as well, and that's very commonsensical. If you give a cold injury, then you got to be careful about the shoes that you're wearing and the socks that you're wearing and that sort of a thing.
That's really interesting, and I think a lot of people, again, tend to forget that. In the summertime, you're
Right.
in flip-flops, and you shift over to winter, and it's a lot different. So
Sure.
what are some good, home remedies or practices to get in the habit of doing once, the season starts to change and we start getting into these winter months?
First thing I have people do is if they're getting a lot of dry skin, then we want to check that, fairly often and moisturize. If you're getting a buildup of dry skin on your heels, especially, or on the ball of your foot, you want to file that down, and that's a thick callus that can form. If you don't file those thick calluses down, they split, and that's called a heel fissure. They really hurt. They can bleed. They can get infected. You can have a real mess on your hands. And so especially during the wintertime, that tends to be a bigger problem than I see during the summertime. So I like people to get a foot file or a big, looks like a big emery board, and file down your big calluses on your heel and on the ball of your foot. You can also even get sandpaper that you can take in the shower with you, and I like people to do it while the skin is wet. That makes it a little bit easier, and you just kind of cup around your heel and file that down. I see people with heel fissures a lot during the wintertime, and that is 95% of the fix for that is mechanically filing it and just kind of sanding down those thick areas.
Well, those are all really great recommendations. But when would someone need to come and, see someone like
Sure.
you? When do your problems get really bad, and what are some symptoms to kind of look for?
Yeah, so first of all, if we're talking about fungus, that tends to be pretty obvious. It's very hard to treat a fungal infection in the nail unless you get professional help. There's the stuff that you can buy at the grocery store or at a pharmacy over the counter doesn't really work. So if you've got a fungal nail infection, first of all, that's a lot of people can easily recognize that. The nails are thick and kind of brown and kind of crumbly, and they don't like how that looks. And that's pretty obvious when you see it. And if you do have that, you ought to get professional attention, because there are some drugs that we can do for that. We have a laser treatment here that we do for that. But the things that you buy over the counter that you just brush on your nail is not going to work. So if you feel like you've got a problem in the nail, that you should seek attention. As I mentioned before, if you start to get cracks in your heels in the dry weather, that should get attention. Those can spiral out of control quickly, especially if you tend to be, a little bit older, if you're elderly, if you have diabetes. Those are things that can get very serious very quickly. So if you have a sore, if it really hurts, any blood that you see down there, then you definitely need to get attention for those things.
Is there anything else you want to add?
The one thing that I didn't get to that I wanted to talk about very quickly is, most of the time, I find most people wear cotton socks, and I want to talk about socks for just a second. Cotton is very comfortable. However, it holds moisture against your skin. That's exactly what you don't want during the winter time, especially if everything else is kind of moist around you and we're trying to get rid of water on your skin. So there's socks that you can buy like at a running shoe store that are called moisture wicking socks, and they're wool synthetic wool products that actually push moisture away from your skin. That can be very useful. And so one of the things, if someone comes into me in the wintertime and they've got like an athlete's foot infection or some kind of a fungus problem in their skin, that's one of the first things I tell them is part of your behavior needs to get some different socks. You can't wear cotton socks all the time, because that will hold moisture right against your skin. So your socks matters too, and your socks matters when you're skiing as well. And we don't like things too tight. And I like to have the right socks when you're doing the activity that you're out to be doing. And in general, cotton socks in the winter can be a bad thing. So
awesome, that's good to know. So what you're saying is the cute Christmas socks that you find at like the grocery store. What do you think about those?
They're cute. If they're made of just straight cotton, though, I wouldn't wear them all day. How's that?
All right, perfect. So this is a Christmas series. Sure. I do have a Christmas question for you.
Go for it. I'm ready.
What is your favorite holiday tradition?
We all get together with kids and we all wear pajamas on Christmas Eve, and we usually tell fun stories, and that's some of my fondest memories. And so I would say probably the night we get together to play games and tell stories and all wearing the same pajamas on Christmas Eve is what we like to do.
So thank you so much, Dr. Bruse, for that great information. Again, as you're shopping for socks, boots, make sure to keep all these recommendations in mind, as it will be very, very helpful. So that wraps our second day of our 12 Days of Wellness series. We wish you all a very happy holiday.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you.